I am excited about Group H. What you're guaranteed is that a team with some quality is going to finish third. And at this point, it's very hard to see who. I've got a hunch. I'm fairly certain it's going to be Man United. But that might not be the case. It could be Leipzig. It could very well be PSG. It almost definitely isn't Istanbul. Istanbul's squad is essentially comprised of people that a few years ago would be really good to have in your team. They've got guys like Demba Ba, Nasser Chadli, Rafael, the former fullback from United and Lyon. They've got Martin Skrtel. They lost Robinho, but quite frankly, the less said about him in general, the better. This is a team that's kind of like an all-star game. It's like an all-star game way after everybody's hit their prime. I can't see this team getting anywhere other than fourth. I would be amazed if they get any result at all. They actually lost 2-0 to Leipzig in their first game. And this is a Leipzig team that's very much going under a transition, which is strange because it's only been around for about 11 years. But this is the first year where Leipzig are playing big boy football without Timo Werner. We kind of saw towards the tail end of last season what happens if this team doesn't have Timo Werner. So he chose to train with Chelsea instead of play in the Champions League with the club that elevated him to the world, and that's it. That's his choice. Quite frankly, it's the wrong choice, but it's his choice regardless. This is the first time that Leipzig have to think long term without Timo Werner, and they seem to have a rough idea of what's going to be happening. I think a lot of people were half expecting them to pick up Milo Rashica from Werder Bremen. That didn't happen. I think there was a potential move to Aston Villa that kind of maybe fell through. But with a guy like Julian Nagelsmann in charge, you can kind of be safe in the knowledge that whatever happens is going to be the right thing. The problem that Leipzig currently have is that the person that's more or less taking over from Werner is Yusuf Poulsen, who's been at Leipzig for years now. He's never been that prolific. He gets goals. He's very tall. I think he's 6'6", maybe 6'7". He's incredibly tall, very fast, but just doesn't have that sort of finishing instinct that Timo Werner has. So I kind of have to think, okay, well if they're keeping Yusuf Poulsen, why did they get rid of Matheus Cunha to Hertha Berlin? Then outside of that, you've got guys like Alexander Sørloth, who they've got in from Crystal Palace. I think he's going to be an interesting addition to not just the squad, but also to the league, as well as the Champions League. Leipzig have got some really interesting players, whether it's Marcel Sabitzer, Emil Forsberg, or Christopher Nkunku, Danny Olmo. They've got fantastic players, and it's not just they're really good going forward. In defence, they're incredible. With Deo Upamecano was a standout player in the latter stages of the Champions League. Guys like Klosterman. There seems to be quality up and down that squad. So I can't really picture them struggling. I think if they fall short, maybe it's going to be due to goal difference. I think it's going to be maybe a case of, United got that extra penalty at the end, of course. So maybe that's the thing that gets them through. I think whatever happens, Julian Nagelsmann and RB Leipzig are a team to be really excited about, which is such a huge shame because there's every part of being a fan of German football that tells me you shouldn't like this. So from one team that lost their centre-forward to another team that didn't really have a centre-forward, PSG. PSG reached the Champions League final last season. They lost 1-0 to, I think it was Bayern Munich that they lost to. A lot of the criticism that PSG faced at the end of last season was that the reason why they didn't win is because they didn't have an out-and-out centre-forward. If they had somebody like Robert Lewandowski, maybe this would be different. Which, okay, but also no, they had Mauro Icardi on the bench. They had Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. They essentially phased Edson Cavani out when they really shouldn't have. But then even outside of that, a team with Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria. This is a team that Bayern's defence was easily their biggest weakness, and not even a matter of just it's the worst, but it's still pretty good. No, the defence was terrible. Boateng and Alaba in the Champions League final, that's not a Champions League final winning partnership. So the fact that they weren't able to capitalise on it, and the fact that they had fallen short so many times before, almost always in the quarterfinals, leads me to believe that there's just some form of bad juju that's going on in Paris. If I was to blame anything, I would probably blame the fact that Emily in Paris is now streaming on Netflix, and that's ruined most of my October. If I was to hazard a guess, I'd say that it's probably ruined the entire history of PSG as a football club. But saying that, PSG have got in a centre forward. They've got Moise Kean in. I don't think that he's the solution to all of their problems. The solution to all of their problems is Mauro Icardi. If Icardi can just shake off whatever his attitude problem is, whatever like mental problem that he's kind of like trying to overcome, where when he gets onto a pitch he just becomes useless. If Thomas Tuchel is as good as people say he is, he will be able to get Mauro Icardi to be the world-class striker that he has always threatened to become, but has always kind of just held back. I think the fact that he was at an underperforming Inter Milan didn't help matters, but now he's at PSG where he's got Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria, Paredes, Verratti. He's got all of these fantastic players around him. This is the time where he can really capitalise on it. And then you've got Manchester United, still inexplicably managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Ole has been at the wheel for a good couple of years now, and never really seemed to have like much control over what was going on. It seems to me that every single time Solskjaer is like just about to get sacked, they get another good result, and he's like, oh, I'm a genius again. If there is one thing that he can do to convince me and to convince everybody else that he knows what he's doing as a manager, it's that he needs to drop Harry Maguire as soon as humanly possible in place of Axel Tuanzebe. The way that he played against Mbappe and against Neymar was phenomenal. The fact that he was able to do a better job against Neymar and Mbappe than Maguire was against Harry Kane and Heung-min Son was nothing short of incredible. Both him and Wan-Bissaka, that is a very firm defensive partnership that they've got on that right side. If they can then couple that up with another really competent defender, they don't need to go all out and get like another Maguire. They don't need to spend 80 million. They've got players. They've got Eric Bailly. If they can sort out Eric Bailly, that would be great. If not, Victor Lindelof has the potential to become a very important player for United's defence. The back five that United were playing with Alex Tejas, Luke Shaw, Victor Lindelof, Axel Tuanzebe and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, that is the defence that needs to be used from now until the end of the season. I don't think Harry Maguire has ever shown the ability to be a starting centre-back for Man United. That whole trope of this is Man United we're talking about, that doesn't matter anymore. This is Man United. I don't care whether or not this is Man United or not. Harry Maguire is not good enough to start for Man United. He's not good enough to start for Man United. He's not good enough to start for Leicester. He's definitely not good enough to be captain. At this point, maybe it's just worth cutting your losses and saying, okay, maybe we overpaid for Harry Maguire. Maybe. They did.